Hi, Kingsley here. Today, we're going to tackle a common issue that often, I believe, hinders growth and communication within your marriage. It's called the blame game. That's a common issue. I've heard it so often from so many couples. And seeing it through their eyes and hearing it through what they share, I believe this is a big issue for so many couples. And so I've entitled this video, Stop the Blame Game in Your Relationship. Now, the blame game, I believe, as you may have experienced yourself, is a vicious cycle that can destroy even the strongest of relationships. I think John Gottman, he talks about the four horsemen and about the four things that he believes leads many times is a very high contributor for divorce. And one of those he talks about is defensiveness. He shared that defensiveness is really a blaming. When there's a defensiveness experience in the relationship, blame is often present. And so this is really a critical topic, and we see it so many times that in relationship where they get in this cycle and it's so vicious, right? It can't get out. It's blaming, and sometimes shaming. So we're going to talk about that today and about how to actually break that, how to change that, dynamic and experience and create a paradigm where you can actually break out of that cycle. Because when we blame our partners for our problems, we're not only refusing to take responsibility for our actions, but we are also creating a hostile and very much a very toxic environment. And so we're going to explore how to shift away from that blame game that will lead to a healthier and more fulfilling marriage. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 4 actionable steps or strategies that you can take that will help you to stop the blame game. Now, I want to begin with these 3 questions that I like to ask right at the very beginning and for you to process and kind of hold on to as we go through this video today. The first question is, have you ever found yourself trapped in the blame game? How did that affect your connection with your partner? Second question, what would it look like if you shifted from blame to empathy in your relationship? And thirdly, are there areas you could take more responsibility for your actions and contribute positively to your relationship? Are there areas? And if so, have you identified? And would you take responsibility for them even right now as we're going through this video? Now, some people might object to this idea of stopping the blame game as if it's never possible. They'll say it's impossible to not blame your partner. Come on, Kingsley. It's an impossibility, but I disagree. And you'll see and hear why in a few moments. I say that I disagree with that. Now, you might be thinking, why should I stop playing the blame game? Isn't it natural to point fingers when things go wrong? After all, I'm not perfect and everybody does it. Well, let me just answer the latter. Everybody does not do it. I guarantee you'll find people who may at one time have done it. But I believe that marriages that are succeeding today are succeeding because they have learned or unlearned how to blame the other person and no longer is in that vicious cycle. Now, it's true, blaming each other might seem like the easiest way to deal with conflicts, but it really can be counterproductive, right? Now, you might say, it's easy for you to say. You don't know what it is to live with my partner. You do have a point. I don't, but I don't need to. I've worked with hundreds of couples over the last several years, both as a marriage and family therapist and as a certified relationship coach. And I've heard the stories. You name it, and I think I've heard it. So on top of that, I've been married for almost 40 years, 4 decades, and have learned a thing or two in my own marriage. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that my wife and I have had our differences, even though I can't give you specifics from memory. I know that we have had our share of the blame game more than likely earlier in our relationship. But I can also tell you that I cannot remember the last time we've gotten caught up in the blame game. So I do know that it can be unlearned because blaming is a learned behavior. It's a learned behavior. But you might say to me, blaming helps me express my frustration. Or you might say, I need to hold my partner accountable for their actions. Come on now, they've got to be held accountable, right? And you may say, it's their fault, so they should take responsibility. I'll get you. The truth is, even when our partner do something that hurts us, we still have a choice about how we react, right? We always have a choice. We can either choose to blame them and let the anger and resentment build up, or we can choose to take responsibility for our own feelings and try to find a solution that works for both of us. We're only responsible for two things. We're responsible for our behavior, and we're responsible for our response to the behavior of our partner, our spouse. So I'm going to share with you that 4 techniques that will help you to stop the blame game and create a more united relationship. Now, comment below whether you agree or disagree with what I've just said. And also, while you're at it, make sure you smash that subscribe button. And if you're liking so far what you've heard, hit the like button as well. This is one way you can show your support for the channel and let me know what you think, and it also let me know that this content is something that you would like to have more of in the future, something like this, right? So if you're struggling with any of these objections, if you are the one who have raised those, I want to encourage you to keep watching. I want to share with you those 4 actionable tips, but also some benefits as to why you want to stop the blame game. Now, by the way, if you're new to this channel and wondering who I am, I'm Kingsley Grant, and I speak on topics like this one. I've been able to do so as a certified relationship coach and as a licensed marriage and family therapist, and have worked with hundreds of couples like you heard me mention before. And so I've also been married for almost 4 decades. So I think I've learned a thing or two about personally and professionally about these dynamics I'm sharing with you in this video. Now, one of the mission that I'm on, as you may have heard me mention at some point, is that I'm on a mission to eradicate unhappiness from Christian marriages. That's my mission that I'm on. And so I'm also trying to help spouses, like yourself, to take responsibility for your own happiness and how to create from that a happier and more fulfilling marriage. So let me also recommend that you listen to my podcast where I talk about other topics as well at happiermarriagesecrets.com, happiermarriagesecrets.com. You can go there and click on the podcast menu and be able to access all the past episodes that I've spoken on. But also from this platform you're listening to the podcast you're listening to, you can also access it there as well. Now, at the end of this video, I'll share with you how to get access to some free resources that I have to offer. Now let's explore the benefits. There are benefits that you are going to experience once you implement the strategies. Once you're able to stop the blame game, there are benefits to those. And let me share 3 of those with you right now. The first one is your communication skills will get better. When you're not blaming your partner, you're more likely to be able to express your feelings in a calm and constructive way. That's one of the benefits is when you stop blaming. I heard this recently that instead of blame, you should claim. Means instead of blaming, claim what it is you want and communicate that. That's how you're going to improve your communication skills. Number 2, you're going to build trust and intimacy. That's one of the benefits that happens when you're able to stop the blame game. You're beginning to build trust and intimacy. Because when you're not constantly pointing fingers, you're more likely to feel safe and secure. The 3rd benefit is it's going to encourage personal growth. By taking responsibility for your actions and focusing on self-improvement, that's going to empower you to become a better partner and cultivate, I believe, a personal growth within the relationship. And that is why I said earlier, I'm all about personal responsibility. You have a choice and you can decide, claim, and work towards your own happiness. That's very, very important. So I believe that by embracing these benefits, you're going to unlock a new level of connection and harmony in your marriage once you're able to stop the blame game. Now, as I've often shared with you, if you've been listening to my this channel for some time, I share with you about our fictional couple, Sarah and John. And so I want to share with you again today a story about Sarah and John. Now, they've been married for 13 years and have 2 young children. We've established that before. Now, they recently moved to a new city, and their roles and responsibilities have shifted because of where they're at and, work and so on. Now, Sarah, she felt overwhelmed with household tasks, while John was focusing solely on his career. This shift has really created a dynamic that kind of interrupted what they had. The system in place got interrupted. And so Sarah felt like she was doing most of the household tasks and John is focusing on his career. And they both were creating the, had a very legitimate claim to what they're sharing. Now, instead of discussing their concerns openly, they engaged in the blame game. Sarah blamed John for being inconsiderate. And while John, he blamed Sarah for not expressing her needs clearly and wanting him to read her mind as to what she needs from him. As you can imagine, their relationship suffered as blame overshadowed their love and understanding. And that's what blame does. It will overshadow your love and other dynamic that you have, or the traits you have in the relationship. Now that we've kind of looked at John and Sarah's story in your relationship, and thirdly, I want to dive into the 4 practical ways that you can stop the blame game. And I think having that Sarah and John's story as a backdrop, you will see why these 4 things, if Sarah and John is able to implement them, it could change the dynamic of their relationship, but it can also change the dynamic of your relationship as well. Now, before I give you the 4 practical ways to stop the blame game, let me encourage you to at least gauge at this point how your marriage is. Maybe the blame game has impacted your relationship, if that's a true aspect of what's happening in your marriage, or other things are impacting your relationship and you're not sure where your marriage is right now. There's something that's off, right? Something that's off, you're not sure exactly what that is. Is there a way to find out? And the answer is yes. So I've created a simple marriage assessment quiz that you can take in less than 90 seconds that will give you a general idea of the state of your marriage. And you can access that assessment at happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. And you get a downloadable PDF that will explain to you the results that you'll get from that assessment. Okay. Again, happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. Now, how do you stop the blame game in your relationship? Here are 4 ways that I'm going to share with you. And the first one, I've kind of alluded to that earlier, is take responsibility for your own actions. One of the things about the blame game, it all started in the early part of creation when God created Adam and he created Eve, right? And God told Adam that he should not eat the fruit of the tree of life in the garden, right? He should not eat of that knowledge of good and evil. He should not eat of that tree. So I stand corrected on that. And he told Adam that. And as the story unfolded in Genesis, in the Bible, it speaks about how Satan came along and he spoke to Eve, the wife, and not to Adam, but to Eve. And he began to coax her about the tree that God forbid Adam and Eve from eating the fruit of that tree. And the Bible says how one day Eve began to saunter closer to the tree, and the fruit in her eyes looked luscious. It looked wonderful. And people say, oh, that's an apple. We don't know if it's an apple tree or not. So, that's why I said the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We don't know what fruit it was. All we know, it was a fruit that seemed delicious to Eve. And she went over and with Satan's tempting and nudging and prompting, she went over and she got deceived. She picked the fruit and she bit it. And she gave part of that to Adam, who God told him directly, don't touch that tree, don't eat it. But Adam took from Eve. There's a whole story I could develop from that, but I won't get into that too deeply. But Adam ate it. God came and God said he found Adam and Eve who were hiding now because they know they had done wrong. And God came to them. And how do you hide from God in the first place, right? But anyway, and God said to Adam, what did you guys did? And Adam said, oh, the woman you gave me. So he blamed Eve. He threw her under the bus, right? And some people do that in their relationship. He said, the woman you gave to me, you created her. It's your fault. You gave her to me. She is the one who is responsible. And he blamed her. So God said, okay. He went over to Eve and asked Eve, what did you do? And Eve said, okay, well, I'm going to pass the blame and pass the buck. And he said, God, it was my fault. Satan is the one who tempted me. He's the one who's responsible for me eating the fruit, right? Adam didn't take responsibility. Eve did not take responsibility. Now Satan had no other person to turn to. And so it landed at his feet. And God said, okay. And God judged all 3 of them. He said to Adam, to Satan, from this day on, you're going to crawl on your belly, right? And he said to Eve, from this day on, you're going to, when you give birth to children, you'll give birth and in pain, right? And he said to Adam, from this day on, when you work, you're going to have the pricks and the sweat of your brow. You're going to have to work hard from that day on. And God closed the Garden of Eden from all 3 of them. But the point is that each of them blame. And God said at the end, you're responsible for your own action, Adam. If you're responsible for your own action, don't blame anybody. So the point is that the blame game has begun from the very beginning of time and still continue today. But we need to take responsibility for our own actions. Number two, learn to communicate your feelings in a calm and constructive way. One of those ways to do that is use I statements, because many times we are blaming, we're saying you never, you always, you done this, you did that. And you know what? People are going to become defensive when they hear you statements. So it's important for you and I to learn how to say I statements. I felt sad when you did XYZ, or it hurt me that you did XYZ. So I'm not blaming, I'm just simply saying, this is my experience. And so I statement is simply pointing to what I'm experiencing. I'm sharing something with my partner that he or she would never know the pain that has caused me. So I can say, one of the formula I give to my couples many times, I say, use this formula. When I felt, when I saw, I heard, I felt. Or when I saw or heard, I felt. Right. So the I statement is what is very important. So learn to communicate your feelings in a calm and constructive way. And number three, be willing to forgive your partner. Things are going to happen. You're going to have things where you're going to blow up sometimes. None of us are perfect, and I get it. But whenever we do something, learn how to forgive. I did a whole video on this topic of forgiveness. You may want to go back and watch that one. But learn to forgive and walk in the forgiveness of your partner. God himself have forgiven us, and we are called to forgive one another. With the forgiveness we've received, we're called to give that to other people. So, I told a story the last time about when Jesus told a story about the man who refused to forgive somebody who owed him a few dollars when he was forgiven of, let's say, millions of dollars. And the story was not good for him. So be willing to forgive your partner. You and I have no right to not forgive because God has forgiven us, right? Now, I'm not saying you won't feel it for a while, and there'll be memory of that. Yes, there will be, but you have to constantly remind yourself that you have forgiven your partner. And number four, when you've tried all these things, or is trying all these things, you may want to seek outside help from a therapist, a pastor, a spiritual leader, a counselor. Seek outside help, because you're determined to unlearn the blame game dynamic. And this may be a way to do that, right? Now, these strategies, my friend, I believe will empower you to create a nurturing and peaceful environment within your marriage. Wouldn't you say? I believe it would. And I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on any of these things I've just shared. I'd love to hear your comments, and please comment below in the description. In the comment section below this video, right? Follow the description. Please comment and let me know your thoughts on what I've shared. So in this video, we've talked about the importance of stopping the blame game in your relationship. We've discussed some of the benefits of stopping the blame game. We've shared the story of Sarah and John, who were able to, who are in this blame game cycle. And I've shared with you what they can do to break that, and what you can also do to break that and build a stronger relationship. So if you're tired of blaming your partner and want to build a stronger, healthier relationship, I encourage you to implement the tips, the strategies that we've discussed in this video. Remember, it takes effort, it takes practice, but the results are well worth it. Embrace the opportunity to strengthen your relationship and create a happier, more fulfilling marriage. So I encourage you to try these strategies. They may not work right away, but they will eventually, over time, you'll make progress. So remember, the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. Unlearn, relearn, and put any new strategies in place. So before you go, make sure you smash that subscribe button, and remember to listen to the Happier Marriage Secrets podcast. And you can get a free ebook by going to kingsgrant.com. kingsgrant.com/HMS ebook, HMS ebook, and can get a free ebook there as well. All the links mentioned today will be in the description below. Again, I'm Kingsley Grant, and I'm on a mission to eradicate unhappiness from marriages, and I invite you into this journey. With that said, let's go and make marriages happier again. Until next time, peace out, God bless, and I'll see you on the next video.